Pradaya Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharani Nirvishesh Navadi Pashatya Deshtaran Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone for joining with us again on the sixth session, which is titled as randomness and predictability. Right. So again, as we were discussing yesterday also during the karma lecture also, when we study the prakriti, the word prakriti is not exactly translated as nature, right? As we were discussing, the language has a psychological background of why they use certain words. The word prakriti used in Sanskrit has a connection to philosophy, right? The word prakriti means prakrishta rupena kriti. In the Christian tradition and Buddhist tradition, we saw how they're opposite to each other in regards to how the creation functions. For everything, whether it is earthquake, whether it is disaster, natural disaster, that is seen as an anger of God, brimstone throwing everywhere, right? But in the Buddhistic philosophy, since God does not there, so anger, destruction is not caused by a single person. So there is a complete contradiction to each other in regards to how they perceive the Srishti. But in the Vedantic philosophy, as we have discussed, in the Bhagavatam it is explained, in the Gita also, Maya Adakshina Prakriti. There is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. This one has to hear carefully. There is no pratyaksha, there is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. What is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea that material nature is the creator. It is a you know a foundational understanding of Vedantic philosophy. Then the question is raised, that means can we control everything according to exploration what we can have about the material creation? If I can explore the material creation, then I can control it, understand it, get success out of how she operates. There is some truth to this. Therefore, today's topic, we are going to discuss about the some truth, the predictability as against the randomness. And in the next week, we will bring out how, even though there is a lot of predictability, the principle of uncertainty and certainty gives rise to an amazing dynamic, a psychological dynamic, which has a powerful explanation in regards to how we need to have the grace of Creator, Supreme Brahman, God, Krishna. How do we need it? Why do we need it? It's a brilliant topic. So, after hearing this, there is no direct engineering of the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. What is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply counteract the idea that material nature is the creator. Therefore, Devatas, the word Devata comes here. Deva and Devata. Who are the Devatas? Devatas are the Karma Sachiva. Karma Sachiva, they are the secretaries who basically give us the consequences of our activities. If you have the right currency and you want to buy something based upon that, you can get it. And Krishna hints this in the Bhagavad Gita in the third chapter in regards to how the creation operates. 3.10. He says, when the creation was made, what did he say? When the creation was made, he said, told the living entities, thou perform yajna. Now, yajna is not fire sacrifice alone. Yajna has a different connotation only. It should not be concentrated only of putting some ghee in the fire. That is not the definition of yajna. Now, yajna has a much greater definition. If we'll come there. So, the wise man, it is explained. There is a nice book on this and randomness. Wise man listens to meaning. The ordinary only gets the noise. These are all very powerful statements if you understood the second canto verse. Then it is explained in that book. For the gods perceive things in the future. Right? Ordinary perceive in present. But wise perceive things about to happen. Now we will try to expand this concept. In the Vedas, there are people who follow the Vedic lore, those who follow Vedas. But within that also, those who follows Vedas, there are a Vedic Gnostic as against the non-Vedic Gnostic. There are people who are atheistic who are not part of the Vedas, and there are people who are atheistic but part of the Vedas. Right? So they do not, it is not that their goal is to establish non-existence of God. But as they present the logic of Nyaya Shastra and the atomic theory of Canada, what happens? The conclusion after hearing and understanding, you start feeling that actually you don't need God because the creation is functioning so precisely. If I can tap into the functioning of the creation, I can get greater results in my growth. Right? For example, the farmers, not the present farmers, the farmers maybe 2 generation, 3 generation before, they would not sow the seed, they would not cultivate the farmland based upon what is the market going to be, how does the market function, what would be in demand. They would not go by that, because if you go by the market centric farming, then you have a greater chance of making loss, because the prakriti does not function based upon the demand in the market. The farm function based upon what is the surrounding atmosphere, how much rain will come, how much rain will not come, what kind of rain will come, what kind of crop you have to grow based upon what is the prakriti asking you. So these farmers were sensitive enough. There are books written in the folk tradition. Somebody did a research on this folk tradition and compiled a book. And without having proper systems of weather forecast, more than 80% of the time their prediction was very clear. Now this prediction was not based upon some gut feeling. This prediction was based upon statistics which they have cultivated in their own system. It's a folklore. Oh, there is a sky this color, and the dogs are behaving like this, the birds are functioning like this. Therefore, the rain is going to happen after 6 months like this. So it is better that we plant these kinds of seed. So what is there? There is a greater predictability. But when you go by the market, then what are you doing? You are basically dealing with a randomness. It is like a gambling, right? Just like, again, if you study the astronomy, we are not talking about Jyotish Shastra. That is one of the six angas, right? So Jyotisha means what? Jyoti means to give light. How does Jyotish Shastra give light? So there is a mathematics, right? And the mathematics is connected to the movement of the planetary position. When there is a Prakriti and maths where the 360-degree combination, right? Every planet stays in one virtual houses for 30 degree, and that 30 degree is different for Shani for 2.5 years, and that 30 degree is different for a moon, which is 2.25 days, right? So the moon is moving very fast and Saturn is moving very slow. Now you don't need to say, oh, I don't believe it. This is astronomically also accepted reality, right? So that mathematical combination creates certain pattern in the nature. When the mathematics is so precise, you could predict. The Panchanga is one of the great contribution of the rishis. The modern calendar, what we see based upon Jan, Feb, March, days, months, and you go back to study the Panchanga, for 1,000 years, you can have a calendar of 3045, or you can go back and have a calendar of 125. Like we are going 2000, right? 2021. But you can go and have a precise calculation. When was the planet Saturn sitting in 1020? What was his position? Why? Because of the precise mathematics. The planet move in such a preciseness, it is mind blowing. It's mind boggling, right? Not only the planet are moving forward, there is a concept of retro, vakri, and there is also atichari. Atichari means going faster. Today, now at this stage, Jupiter Guru, who is moving much faster than regular way. And all this mathematical calculation is possible. It is not miracle. It is a mathematical precise system. Those who understand, those who study, for them it is not a miracle, but it is a coherent system. So when there is a maths and there is an impact on the prakriti, and then there is a logic based upon experience, to interpret about what could happen. This is the real data science, right? So therefore, just like in the modern systems, I was talking to one doctor, uh, super specialist, and her husband is a very good IT engineer. And he was telling, what is our business? We are into the business of through data science to big data, with lots of data we collect and the speed in which mouse. So the pharmaceutical industry at one point of time want to eliminate as many doctors as possible. Well, how is it possible? I asked. He said, because when we have a facility, certain tools of measuring your blood pressure, measuring your heartbeat, how much time do you sleep, how much do you walk, the water content in your body, the sugar content in your body, your heartbeat, when everything is recorded, if that goes to the pharma industry, when they have all the collection of your data, then they will come to know if there is some problem in your body. So the pharmaceutical, this is the future they want to do. The pharmaceutical industry will directly send you the prescription along with the medicine, and the medicine and prescription will be tailor made for you, right? Like somebody has thyronorm, they will say, okay, this is 17.3 degree rather than 25, you know, 25 mg or 17 mg. So what will happen? The mechanical preciseness will be achieved. He said, I'm in the business of eliminating my voice business. And he started laughing loudly. Right? Now, how is it possible? Now, the humans have not created the system. They have simply tapped this system which is available in the nature. The signals which are going right when we have this whole mobile system, radio system, television system, what did they do? What is the greatness of the scientists? They did not create the system, they simply tapped the vibrations which are moving in a such a way. Through those movement of the energy, the basically the quantum physics, quantum theory, they created this instrument, right? It is not that the men have created fire. It is not that the men have created sabji. It is not that the men have created rice. What the men have created is the recipe based upon whatever is provided by the nature. And if you apply precisely how to do what is supposed to be a new recipe, it becomes exactly like that. Right? If you go to Jagannath Puri temple, right? Just like about these doctors who are trying to find out exact prescription for particular person, you go to Jagannath temple, there is a system. What is the system? That there is a kitchen. One should go and see that kitchen. The taste of the food since ages. There is a predictability in regards to how they will cook, what they will cook. The taste of the food will come. We will not discuss the devotional part now. That will come to the next one. So because of that preciseness, there is a consistency in regards to taste also. Uh, And therefore, the Sanatan Dharma, in the beginning, what does it do? It does not talk about your belief system, your Shraddha. Sanatan Dharma talks about the functioning reality, which is called as Satya, Dharma, and Rita. What is Satya? Satya is an invisible truth. And what is Rita? Rita is a visible truth. What we see called as Rita, the seasons, rhythmic functioning of the creation. And Satya means, it is unmanifested part of Rita. And what is Dharma? Dharma means actively submitting to the principle of Satya and Rita. When somebody functions and submit to the principle of Dharma, to the Satya and Rita, that is called as Dharma. Just like if you go to the industrial belt, some of the most sophisticated industries, what do they boast about? They boast about when you work in our company, in our place, we guarantee there is a 0% accident. They don't directly say zero, but almost close to 0%. Right? But the same people who are working in that industry, they have made roads, people are going in their vehicle, there is systems. But that same people, when they come out of the industry, because of people not following proper traffic law, there is a greater chance of accident. Within the industry, when the accident is not happening, and outside the industry there is an accident happening, it is caused because it was their destiny, or because it was incoherent, not systematic, carelessness. What is it causing the death of a person? It's an important question to ask. Right? Similarly, the Brahma in that company, because he follows the system properly and he produces greater result. Similarly, when this Prakriti is functioning on a physical level, on a subtle level, on a spiritual level, based upon the contribution of certain universal teachers, universal heads, what does it do? It functions precisely without breaking. 4,32,000 years, 8,64,000 years. It is not that today it will be late. If Japan, if Japan can develop a precise timing about how the train should run, 7:30, 18 seconds means the Tokyo platform will receive the train. If a human being with a limited resources can develop a system where there is a consistency in timing. Of course, we will discuss that tomorrow. What happens when there is a continuous mechanistic rhythm to human existence? What does it do to them? Very interesting topic, right? So Japan is able to achieve certain expertise in regards to timing. You think the Prakriti, right? Even though the Supreme Brahman is not directly interfering, does she not have resources to operate this machine so precisely, systematically? During this December month, there was a rain. Now, the December month is not supposed to be rainy season, right? But why did that rain came? Is it unpredictable? It is random, or it is a predictable reality based upon how we are tampering into Prakriti. Prakriti knows the system. For her, this untimely rain is also her design. Right? If you understand, I'm not able to, I can't explain about this particular rain because I don't have the resources, but I'm talking about the principle. Therefore, what is it? Why did the Prakriti become so mechanically precise? Yes, certainly. Therefore, it is very dynamic. When we only focus on the precise mechanism of the material creation, there is a tendency for us to become like the Buddhistic philosopher. There is a tendency for us to become like the Karana philosopher. There is a tendency for us to become like the Sankhya philosopher, counting, system centric. Right? They remove, if not consciously, unconsciously, the presence of Supreme Brahman from their life. Very interesting, right? So therefore, why did Prakriti function so precisely if there are the chances of we becoming ungrateful, mechanistic, and avoid God? Here, I will not get into the details because our subject is very clear, predictable reality. The purpose of consistency of functioning of the material world is to minimize the misery by using durable things. Durability. What is durability? If there is a continuous inconsistency, you try this, forget the entire creation. You take a vegetable, right? Take your bhendi, take your aloo, take your paneer, whatever you want to take, and cut them in all kinds of shape, round shape, not so clear square. One is big square, one is small square, and play around with the fire while cooking. same recipe, right? But cut the vegetable in different shape, different size, and play around with the fire. And when you're using your spoon, right, there is a rhythm how the ladies move their spoon or best chef move their spoon. You move around everywhere. And in the next shagdi, use the same ingredient, same recipe, follow the predictable system of cutting the vegetable at the right size, moving the spoon in the right rhythm, and see the difference between one to other. The first one can give you sometime great taste accidentally, but most probably it will be very difficult to consume. I am talking about some vegetable alone, right? When you make a garland, if the flowers big and small, if they are not placed according to geometrical you know geometrical aesthetic sense, what will the garland look like? Garland will look like disarrayed. In fact, it is explained in the scripture in the Mahabharata, when you wear torn clothes, when you use broken pots, when your house is not kept neat, it affects your consciousness to become more and more unpredictable. And therefore, when people come to the Western world with all the limitation what they have in regards to psychology, spirituality, one thing is that because they have created some kind of stability, of course we will discuss that also. At least on the material physical platform, there is a durability of things. There is a durability of systems. So this is very important to understand. So therefore, the Prakriti's functioning of predictable reality increases the durability of things. When the durability of things is increased, then it minimizes the misery. And this is what precisely we called as Avatara Tattva. Yada yadai glani, yada yadai glani, what is that? Yada yadai dharmasya glani. Whenever there is a decline in dharma, what is decline in dharma means? There is incoherency. When there is incoherency in the srishti, adharma, and and decline of dharma and increase of adharma, then the supreme transcendental system processor, a transcendental mechanist, the wheel of life which has lost its shape, what does he do? He comes and readjusts it. And why does he readjust? So there should be a rhythm of life, and that rhythm which is centered around Dharma and Satya and Rita, minimize your misery. That is it. After all, nothing else. Now there are many things. Why does he do that? That discussion we will have tomorrow, right? So if you study it, what is it? When the mechanistic preciseness of the material nature is there, then you learn to tap it. Tapping. When you learn to tap it, then you understand how to diagnose the problem if there is a problem, and then you try to solve it. How do you solve it? By applying what you think is the right answer. And when you apply it, what does it give? It gives rise to result. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we discussed 18 point, I think 40 or 30, 18 point, yeah, 18.13, 14, 15. What does Krishna say? There are 5 principles for success. The first is the place of action, kshetra, and the tools to perform certain action, and the action itself, And fourth is the involvement of the person who is performing the action. If this is followed properly, you have done your side of the duty to experience mechanistic preciseness, which is a greater chance of giving you result. And therefore, in the Vedic literature, when somebody is born, before that there is Garbhadan Samskar. After a child is born, there is one samskara which is called as Jata Samskar. If you read Gita properly, you will understand it is not the karma which is cause of suffering. It is the ignorance of right understanding of karma. It is the ignorance of diagnosing our karma. And it is the ignorance of finding a right solution to overcome that karma causes perpetual violence problem. And then we say, what can be done? This is all the will of God only. Consciously or unconsciously, lovingly or hatefully, we make God responsible for our every pain, as if we are basically very advanced spiritually. Without realizing, we are consciously or unconsciously making him responsible for our suffering, even though he doesn't have any plan to make you suffer to become advanced spiritually. Rather, all his plans since ages, yada yada hi dharmasya, is to come here to create stability, so that with that stability you start thinking about higher values of life. So this junction, the mechanistic preciseness without God in the picture makes you redundant, complacent, ungrateful, overconfident, wanting to explore the creation to such an extent that you want to exploit. Right? This is how the materialistic preciseness can lead one to this kind of consciousness. On the other hand, when we accept the Vedantic preciseness, the mechanistic preciseness as explained in the Vedas, then you realize, oh my God, I should be so grateful. I should be so thankful that the Prakriti, which is basically directed by the Supreme Brahman, is functioning so nicely, so that I don't have to worry about dealing of too many uncertainties. Let me develop a deeper desire to explore the materialistic preciseness. For the material scientists makes them understand more and more how it is functioning, how it is functioning, how it is functioning. That is their goal, to know how. And for the people who integrate their matter to spirit, they want to know, along with how it is, they also want to know why it is functioning like that. What is the purpose behind this? Huh? So therefore, when they use the scientific theory, the Jyotish Shastra or Ganita Shastra or the metal Shastra, Ayurveda, the purpose is not to cancel God from their life, but rather, have less expectation from him, or no expectation from him, or do not make him responsible for anything, because he has given everything to you to tap and move progressively, so that you live your stable life and then go deeper into questioning. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. So therefore, how does it function? It functions in a simple way. Uncovering. Now, uncover your surrounding. Uncover your baby when she or he is born, which is called a Jata Karma. Uncover the nature when you are supposed to, know after 3 months I am supposed to place certain seed in the bhumi. And then what you do? Recognize, uncover, khola, and then recognize, have a clarity about the seed, which is the potential seed, which is not the potential seed. along with getting that potential seed, is it the right time to plant it according to not only the planetary position, not according to water availability, many other aspects. When that is done, what does it do? You do the planting. After the planting, there is watering and nourishing. And watering, nourishing, as the plant is growing, you have to fence and protect, cross care, and then fencing. Then, as you are doing all that, removing all the unwanted seed, you see the process of growing. When you see from the uncovering stage to growing stage, there some kind of experience comes. Now, these experiences are extremely subjective. For a scientific mind, which is not based upon the Vedic principle, will feel, I got it. The controlling mentality will develop. But the same scientist who has received this knowledge from his ancestors, whether folk tradition or the classical tradition, the confidence and result as he had expected the results are coming, that will give rise to gratitude. This is the bigger difference in regards to how the Nastic Sankhya see and the Astic Sankhya see. And fulfilling through experience, and next is enjoying. When you see the fruit which is coming from your tree, what do? You enjoy it. Pluck it and say Vishnu, Vishnu, or offer it to Lord in your heart, or you bring it to the altar, right? However you want to. And when you enjoy, first, apne phal ko jab hum khayenge, that is called as swadharma. And what do we do when we have extra fruits? We share it with others. Just see the purpose of creation based upon preciseness working gives rise to personal satisfaction, gives rise to offering that personal satisfaction to others. This is how the personal growth gives rise to development of a community. Hmm? Like there is this nice book written by one philosopher, Malcolm Gladwell, called as Outlier. Hmm? Now, unfortunately, or for to present in the external world, they don't bring the concept of harmonizing between predictable reality and uncertainty. And this is what Vedanta gives, a great combination between machine and spirit. The machine and spirit harmonization is one of the greatest contribution. There is body which is mechanistic, and there is Atma which is full of dynamism. So when we have this body, or when we are in this body, it's a harmony between the matter which is very precise and the spirit which is basically very dynamic. Now, what this person has done, great job in regards to understanding what gives rise to success. There is a concept of 10,000 hours of investment in becoming expert in something. And if you study the Gurukul, this go for 12 years. If they have a right teacher, right atmosphere, study the subject, and they become extremely well versed in their subject. Why? Because they put that stipulated time. One example I'll give, based in that book, which we totally agree, 80% of it, the place of action, the instrument to perform action, and action itself, and our personal involvement. These four things he has figured out very nicely. And what does he call it as? You know, Understanding their potential, making that into a talent, creating an opportunity, and making them work hard consistently for many, many years. And you'll find some of the great men, or if not great, at least successful men, if not successful as we call it as a success, contented people, fulfilled people, fulfilled people. And he gives this example of some great mind in the IT industry. And just see their date of birth. Huh? Bill Gates, 28/10/1955. Everybody knows Bill Gates. Paul Allen, third richest man in Microsoft. He was born in 21/1/1953, 55/53. Steve Ballmer, he was the ninth richest person in the world. He was born in 1956. So what we have from 53 to 56. Steve Jobs, 1955. Eric Schmidt, 1955, the chairman of Google for 10 years, one of the 100 richest person. Bill Joy, 55 born, founder of the Sun Microsystem. Scott M. Neely, 54 born, co-founder of Sun Microsystem. Vinod Khosla, 55 born. Andy Bechtolsheim, 55 born. What do you see that? From 53 to 56, this great mind created an IT revolution. And you can add hundreds of people, their contemporary, if not as successful and famous they were, but they're completely contented and satisfied in regards to wealth formation, in regards to seeing some success in their life. Why like that? And he figures out very systematically that if they put 10,000 hours with the right opportunity, there is a greater chances of they becoming more and more successful in life. It is not simply sentiment centric, it is a system centric. So today we are discussing the system centric, and tomorrow we are discussing the sentiment centric. When sentiment and system they come together, you become Arjuna. Huh? Right. So therefore it is simple and clear. Unpredictable randomness creates a chaotic condition. When there is a chaotic condition, that causes great anxiety in people's life. And people who are driven by anxiety, when they come to God, their expectation in God increases manifold. And sometime randomly, when they came to God, certain of their desire gets fulfilled, they become more burdensome to God, asking him to fulfill many of their desire. They start telling the story of randomness in connection to their beliefs. Oh, this is what happened, and therefore they take that as a rule, right? And that creates a greater trouble. Therefore, our what is his name? Vidura in the Mahabharata, he explained to Dhritarashtra, very simple, four principle for success. Four principle for success, he said: yoga, raga, daksha, and tantra. Once again, the four things are yoga, raga, daksha, and tantra. What is yoga? Yoga is basically collecting the resources, whatever you need to cook something. What is raga? Raga is learning from your grandmother, learning from your mother, learning from your, somebody who's expert. Raga means not learning directly. Raga means having that connection. Raga means asakti, attachment, affection, or submission to the teacher. You have the notebook, you have come to the school, but you need somebody to teach you. That is raga. So when the yoga and raga are put together, that gives rise to daksha. Like we were discussing, sadhana is a general word for everything. When there is yoga, raga, and sadhana, whether it is Zakir Hussain, whether it is Bhishmullah Khan, or whether it is Bhimsen Joshi, or it is Sachin Tendulkar, or from the Adhyatmic platform, Raghunath Das Goswami, the discipline, Sanatan Goswami, the discipline, right, in their particular field. What did it happen? They became expert. I remember somebody saying that during the peak of his success, Sachin Tendulkar, right, he was experiencing amazing success, but he was seen during that success also putting 10 hours of sadhana in learning the skill of playing properly. Again, let us not get into अरे वो तो मंडे आप उसका एग्जाम्पल क्यों दे रहे हो. We are discussing about the expertise. A doctor also, it is known fact, the Indian doctor, the heart surgeon, the number of surgery gets to perform. Being a large country, the Chinese doctors and Indian doctors have much greater expertise because large number they perform surgery. No, which many European and American doctors can never experience the kind of experience they get. So what happens with the modern technology, with the Indian population, when you combine those two and human touch, you become daksha. So yoga, raga, and daksha, and the fourth is tantra, the strategy. And therefore, I have quoted this story hundreds of times. When Arjuna asked Krishna, who is better, Duryodhana is better or Bhima is better in regards to mace fighting? What did Krishna speak? He did not speak the sentiments because Arjuna's question was very clear. He didn't ask Krishna, Krishna, who is dear to you? Krishna would have say, anybody is dharmic and devotee, they will be dear to me. So then Arjuna cannot imagine, oh, because Bhima is dharmic and devotee, therefore in mace fighting is better than Duryodhan. What a blunderous conclusion. You are expert in loving God, that does not make you expert in dealing with the creation. The love of God and the laws of God, when they are harmonized together, then that deadly combination, more than deadly, that nectarian combination gives always someone to be better than others. So here Bhima had less yoga in regards to mace fighting because he was living in the forest for 13 years. He had less raga, means connection to the great teachers in regards to mace fighting. Duryodhan got that. No, Balramji. Daksha, because yoga and raga was there, he became skillful. Therefore, when Arjuna asked this question, he said, Arjun, in skill, Duryodhan is much superior. In power, Bhima is greater. But in skill, Duryodhan is greater. So yoga, raga, daksha. When there is yoga, when there is daga, then there is daksha, then the strategy becomes seamless for you. Right? So Vidura, the great devotee, is giving this four principle. And what separates the theistic people who believe in the mechanistic system and the atheistic people who believe in this system, their consciousness, their ideology, their spirit has a world of difference. Just because we practice spirituality, we cannot say this world is functioning simply by the active will of God. He can do anything. That is a good spirit, right? He can do anything. He can create a river right here, and he can make the ocean disappear. He can create a mango season now, and you know he can make the certain government disappear. He can do anything and everything. That's a good spirit. But does he do that? Do we have the statistics of God interfering and spontaneously changing thing according to his will? And what is his will? His will is nothing but his law. Therefore, whether you are practicing Vedanti, the theistic Vedanti, right, or you are believing in Vedas but do not need God in your life, or you are a Buddhistic philosopher, or you are a non-Buddhistic modern science philosopher, there is no contradiction in regards to predictable reality of the nature. If all these people understand how it functions, they are expert in utilizing for their advantage. What differentiates between the modern scientific people and the Vedantic scientific people, that the Vedantic scientific people have a touch of theism there. They are saturated with theism, and that saturated theism gives them another great adventurous psychology. No, that adventurous psychology is extremely difficult for the people who do not have access to the grace of God. Again, I said grace of God is adding to these principles of mechanistic reality, not separating the mechanistic reality and saying that, I depend on God. That is a sentimentalism without structure, right? It's a big difference. It gives rise to big difference. So therefore, simple, it is explained that the predictable reality has the power of patience along with active investment, whether it is investing in the money as stock market, investing in relationship, investing in growing trees, investing in education, investing in spirituality. If you are a trader as against investor, in the bull market everybody makes money, but in the bear market you are exposed. So therefore, those who have the courage and the systems, they always grow. Why? Because you're investing, and investment is always long term. And this the famous statistical reality is explained, the difference between 1 year investment and 1 minute investment means you are focusing on every minute. Oh, changing, no, not this one, not this one, not that one. So what is the difference? Those who are constantly involved in trading word, I'm not talking only from the stock market point of view, in every aspect of life, the probable success is only 50.17%. When it is 50.70% means absolutely there is no chance of success. And if you invest for a long term, 1 year, the success rate is 93%. See the jump from 50 to 93%. Therefore, if you're a mechanistic person, you'll say, wow, I'll follow this. I don't need God. If you stop with this lecture. And if you're a practicing spiritualist, after understanding this, you realize, oh my God, I am doing something wrong. I am burdening God by asking many things because I think I deserve it, because I believe I trust in God, right? Those also will understand, oh my God, how precisely this world is functioning. And if you understand and you develop, you have a faith in God, what does it do? That gives rise to another chapter in your life. And that is the harmony of uncertainty and certainty that we will discuss tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Nice to understand that there's so much of predictable systems which we can explore for our growth. We have a question from Harsh. Harshi, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Maybe he's not.
I can take the next one.
Yeah, we have Taruja ji. Taruja ji, can you please unmute yourself and ask?
Hello, Haribol.
Yeah, Harshi, can you please ask a question? Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the class. Prabhuji, if I just put it in these words, it's like in a relationship, you don't expect each and everything to be done by the person. There are some laws of relationship. So when you say laws of relationship, that is the mechanical aspect you are telling. However, it does not end at that. There is also the personal aspect of the person. So there was a sentiment concept. Is that finding correct? That therefore we follow the
Hello?
and to understand or to make it unique, we have the sentiment.
Yes. So therefore, we will discuss that aspect tomorrow.
Is that correct,
Today,
Prabhuji?
yes. Therefore, we discussed today the one aspect, the
Okay.
80% of what Gita
Okay.
speaks about, the place of action, the performers of action, the resources, the instrument, and your, the heart. So the diver perspective, the last 20%, which
Prabhuji,
makes it dynamic.
okay, got it.
We'll discuss that tomorrow. Yeah.
And Prabhuji, can you just elaborate on when you say trading on everything statement you said?
Yeah, because trading is basically very, very, there could be enthusiasm, but there is no patience and determination. When there is enthusiasm without patience and determination, it is born out of Rajoguna and it lacks steadiness. It is very result oriented. The concept of Nishkama Karma doesn't exist there. And whenever there is so much of quick result oriented, there is a quick frustration also. No? Even a trader, the two trader, if you see the dalals and the lot of, they have a great patience. They are more of an investment in relationship, therefore they're able to trade since ages. Therefore the word trading in relationship also, if there is a trading, I got married, I need to get everything now, only all my experiences should come instantly. It doesn't happen, because marriage is not trading. I do this for you, do this for me. Marriage is an investment. You start learning each other more and more and more, and then that investment gives rise to fruits after some years, to experience deeper levels of relationship between the two beyond the biological reality.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Taruja ji, can you please ask your question?
Yes, this is Sriram. Again, I'm logged in through my wife's ID. So, Prabhuji, thank you. I'm not going to sound as coherent in my question this time, because there's just way too much going on with what you said in my mind. But just a couple of things that really struck me as I was listening to you today, and hence just putting it out there, not necessarily in the form of a question. But so the one thing that's emerging for me is, with the universe functioning with the kind of precision that it does, which is really where our traditions come from. So it's really just a fallacy to then just say that superstition and science are two different things, because our fundamental beliefs in the Indian system really are very, very science driven in a certain sense, right? So the whole duality around saying you're either, because religion is basically science. In a certain sense, and hence to look at this as two different things is us being foolish, for a want of a better word, right? To not realize this is such a pity, is the one thing that's really coming in, because we tend to believe what we see, and if certain things are not explained to us a certain way, we see them as two different things. That's one. The second thing that and hence this led to another thought in a certain sense. So this led my mind into thinking about duality in a certain sense. And hence this other thought, which is where the question comes in. And I'm very, very eager to know your views on this. We spoke about duality is reality last week, right? How there's day and night and so many other things, cold and hot and all of that. But with the larger purpose, and Krishna also says that is inclusiveness is all about harmony. Yoga is about harmony. Is it then fair to start thinking that the whole concept of duality is reality in the material world? Because when you become one with the ultimate, there is no duality at all. And that's the larger purpose of life, right? So duality hence is a reality in the material world, maybe, but in the larger scheme of things. So our ability hence to embrace that duality in the material world is what actually leads to oneness. Some of the other thoughts that's coming to my head. Very eager to hear your thoughts on both of these.
Yes, so therefore, yes, you already understood very clearly. The duality is an operating principle, as a mechanistic, but oneness means, the philosophy of integration, more than oneness, it's an integration. Oneness, sometimes there is a wrong understanding of oneness means when you cook a khichdi, if you know khichdi, when you cook a khichdi, it is not that every ingredients have lost their identity.
Correct.
Because they have their identity and they are coherently working with others, therefore there is oneness of integration. So similarly, whether creation or whether it is God or whether it is you, when there is an integration between all the three, Prakriti, Purusha, and Jiva, their thoughts, their understanding, their ideas, if they're coherent, then what happens in regards to spirit, there is no difference, there is complete integration. There is no separation. In the 18th chapter quoted that verse yesterday, Sattva Guna means to see that spirit everywhere rather than seeing the differences. Therefore, in the Gita, it is explained what is overcoming, what is transcending the duality means. Transcending the duality means if you are able to minimize the experience of pain and pleasure, right? We can't say at our level, oh, I don't feel any pain, I don't feel any pleasure. If we can minimize the distinction between pain and pleasure, that means don't enjoy your pleasures more than it deserves, and don't suffer your pain more than it deserves. Then you are experiencing, very close understanding of integration. Therefore, when Arjuna, saying, no, I don't want to fight. So he was creating a conflict between violence and non-violence. In the higher realm of reality, violence and non-violence, they are non-different to each other. If we have a time, we will discuss. I was talking about yesterday, vegetarian and non-vegetarian. If you study the philosophy of Lord Buddha, he overemphasized on the principle of ahimsa paramo dharma. Right? But if you study Manu Samhita, or if you study Mahabharata also, there was no conflict. Now this may be controversial, but there was no conflict in regards to being a vegetarian and a non-vegetarian. They were, most of them would evolve from being non-vegetarian to vegetarian without condemning those who are non-vegetarians. Like Dharma Vyada in the Mahabharata, this word Dharma Vyada sounds such a contradiction from a purely black and white conceptive. This is right, this is wrong. But here Vyasadeva Krishna in the Bhagavatam 11th canto is able to say Dharma Vyada. Vyada means what? Vyada means butcher. How can butcher be dharmic? How is it possible? But yes, on that level, that Dharma Vyada, the Vyada became dharmic. Right? And those who cannot see this integration, they may be being a pujari in the temple, but they could be adharmic purohit. They are supposed to be dharmic purohit, but they can be purohit. Certainly does not make you directly dharmic. You have to learn the art of integration. That is what yoga is. That is what dharma is. That is what satya is. That is what rita is. Yes, therefore on that level, Arjuna's killing and somebody else practicing non-violence for the right reason, they are non-different to each other. In fact, there is a story. Then if somebody else has a question, I can take. When Krishna was studying along with the Sudama in Sandipani Muni's Gurukul.
Mm.
So one time where Sudama and Krishna argued, Sudama said, "No, how can you kill somebody?" Krishna, to protect someone, he hunted a bird.
Mm.
No, so then they were argument. So when they came to Sandipani Muni said, Sudama, you are speaking from a one perspective, the Brahminical non-violence, and you are right from your perspective. And Krishna was speaking from a Kshatriya himsa,
Mm.
the right reason. Therefore, there is no contradiction between the two. But what stories we learned in our childhood, that two students of followers of Buddha, they came to their teacher, and the teacher overemphasized on the principle of non-violence and removed the valor in the heart of the people.
Mm.
Right? Rather than studying these stories, a policeman, a kshatriya, a warrior, it is his dharma to be violent,
Mm.
not recklessly. At the same time, a brahmana, a brahminical person who's a teacher, his nature is to be non-violence to even the violent student and see that spirit. I can train him, I can educate him. Like we discussed this, a psychologist will see a patient as a diseased person, and the police officer will see, or a public prosecutor will see him as a criminal. Is there a contradiction? No. From the law base, from the act base, there is a violence, there is a crime, but from the diseased point of view, it is a disease. So if they operate, physically punish him for his crime, but psychologically heal him for his disease. So there is no contradiction in regards to this too. Therefore, it is explained the Prakriti is full of harmony, even though apparently it appears to be contradictory to each other. And we grow to that level by seeing the black and white in our childhood in the beginning, but slowly as we grow, we start, at least intellectually, start seeing the spirit between the harmony between the two. Thank you
Mm.
for good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prabhuji, Malcolm Gladwell must have done a lot of research to find out the predictability. So he must have taken the research route. But is it that all these things are there in our scriptures for us to understand?
I quoted Bhagavad Gita also, 4 principles of 18.13 and 14. Krishna is speaking Vedanta Panchaitani Mahabhavu Karanani Nibodhame, much deeper than what Malcolm Gladwell speaking about. I quoted Vidura speaking about the yoga, raga, daksha and tantra. There are, what is the whole process of studying in Gurukul for 12 years? He's talking about 10,000 hours. They are talking about 12 years being in Guru's ashram, where the education is given to them. So therefore, it is not that we go to scripture through Malcolm Gladwell. That is unfortunate reality. I am training myself to go from scripture to find out there, oh, this is also there. They have some other tapped into what the scriptures are saying, maybe by their sensitive research, or they have got it from somewhere else from the scripture. No, 100%. There's no question of that. There are, therefore they are called as rishis. Rishis means what? The seer, observers. They observe the nature for long time, how they work and how they function. A farmer is also rishi if he is farming according to what his forefathers had taught him, without getting into market centric farming and the weather centric farming. He will never commit suicide. No, he may make less profit but never loss, most probably, unless he's affected by the dams, unless he's affected by the modern this thing. He will not fail because of his mistake. He will fail because of the systems of the modern people who wanted a quick result. For that they might fail.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, there are systems which are existing, like the laws of farming, and modern scientists understand these laws. At the same time, they use these laws in the name of innovation to create more productivity. So what are your thoughts about it?
No, therefore, again, I said, again, what is the purpose behind understanding and exploring it? The purpose is more productivity and ruling the global world by being a capitalist. Today only somebody was telling when Thomas Alva Edison created this electricity bulb. Now, originally, when they made the bulb could last forever, almost like for a long time. But they realize if you do this kind of bulb, then the market will become redundant. Unless you drop it, it will not break only. So originally, these are all recorded. They came together, the manufacturing people, 3, 4 of them, and they made it very clear, we'll create a bulb in such a way, it is not long lasting, it is not durable. So therefore you have to keep buying. Why? Because it became a profit driven rather than simply research driven. There is another book written by one medical doctor in America, Indian lady practicing in America. The book called is Prime Medicine. She's a neurologist, but she was suffering for some disease, so she took to Ayurveda. Her mother or grandmother gave her connection to that, and she integrated between the modern medicine and Ayurveda. Very famous book, right? Then in her, it's not there in this book, somewhere else is there. So her department asked her, why are you treating them completely? We are into the field of maintaining the patient rather than curing them. If a medical hospital is holding back the patient all the time, making them their permanent people, that is the materialistically driven, trying to tap the creation and only use as much as and give the facility for people to understand only that much, as much as the people remain ignorant, get benefit from them, but not complete benefit. So that is driven by the greed and capitalism. Therefore, the rishis, for that matter, the Vedic scientists, their goal was that the patient should never come to us. The student should never come again and again to us. You understand? So there is a big difference between what they do based upon what they have explored compared to the rishi. So the rishis are the integrated scientists. The book name is called as Prime. She is called as Kulatri Chaudhary.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes, the purpose is very critical. We have a question by Rituji. Rituji, can you please ask a question?
Sure. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class today, as always. It is, I personally learn a lot of things when I come to your lecture. So thank you so much. Prabhuji, my question is maybe slightly more pertinent to yesterday's class, but as I was going through, hearing you today, this, it became a little bit stronger in my mind, and I thought I should ask it. Prabhuji, many times you say that, it all ultimately comes down to our capacity, and it's very, very important to understand and measure what our capacity is. And as I go through these, the laws of life that you have covered over the past weeks, we're into the 6th one now. Prabhuji, could you give me some criteria or some guidance on something like here and now? Because as we go through days events, weeks events, with children, with families, with work, all of these things are constantly bombarded upon us, right? We may recognize that there is duality in reality. We may respond to these events based on laws of life. But what I'm trying to ask is, how do I measure my own capacity? At some point I will have to say no to certain things in my life. Could you give me some criteria or some guidance on what should be my rule in that moment of time, based on which I should say, no, this is beyond my capacity now, and I need to step back? And I personally have my own criteria, which is like children, followed by family, and then God. But I don't know if that is the right one. At least, so if you can give some guidance on how to measure your own capacity and when to say no, as you go through these the events in your life, based on these laws of life, how should we say a no to some things in our life?
Therefore, in the eighth and ninth session, the good comes from the resources, and individual growth is connected to collective growth. There we will deal with this. This question is connected to that, because otherwise, unless we have certain guidelines about how do I apply this in my own life. So we have, because Gita, or whether it is Adhyatma, or whether it is education in the Vedic, this thing, it was all based upon first you. It begins with self. It was not beginning with, oh, you have to do it for your father, oh, you have to do it for your mother, you have to do it for your teacher, you have to do it for society. You should have something to give to the society. Like, simple logic is, if there is a person who is unclothed, and if you go and ask clothes for him, how will he give? From where will he give? Where she will give from? So therefore, the Gita and the rishis, based on our Ayurveda also, and astrology also, it is focusing on you. And unfortunately, our so-called modern society, more modern society, is focusing on based upon what others think about you. Whether it is clothes, whether it is marriage, whether it is food, whether it is taste, whether it is ideology, whether it is your opinion, is all based upon seeing larger number of consensus. I just heard somebody saying this. He says science requires truth. No, science or discovery requires truth, and that truth is found by single person. And the group requires consensus, not truth. If you understand this principle, how much we are in the name of freedom. The modern world is more systematized to extent where you will not decide your life based upon what you want. Your life is decided by them. What kind of clothes you will wear, what kind of food you will eat, what kind of language you will speak, right? So therefore, Gita becomes greater reality to come back and to find out, no, I know I have my relationship, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a student, everything is there. But you have not figured out, we have not figured out, who am I? What is my capacity? Only when you find out your capacity, then you become a contributor. As simple as that. Therefore, in the 8th and 9th session, we'll certainly take care of that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. There's a question by Arunaji. Arunaji, can you please ask a question?
So Prabhuji, I don't know if it is relevant, but I'll still ask Prabhu. If you think it's relevant, you can ask. So we conduct our lives or make choices based on what we think is the best, and after being into Krishna consciousness, but still sometimes things don't go or happen the way that we had thought, or we had, at least in the terms in the Krishna conscious perspective. So in those situations, how much do we blame ourselves for the things that are not going the way that they're supposed to, or uh, that we are expecting or hoping for? It could be your child who's not taking up some values, or it could be your spouse or sister or anybody, right, in the family, when we have conducted ourselves based on some value system, and if somebody in the family is not coherent with the value system, how much should we blame ourselves, or what should be our attitude in that at that time, Prabhu?
Again, there is from an emotional perspective, it is but natural. In relationship perspective, will always blame yourself, right? But that is not the only perspective. That is not the only faculty we have. We have the faculty of intellect also, the buddhi. So what does the buddhi? Buddhi tells us not to feel guilty. Buddhi tells us to learn, collect your statistics. And the emotion says, I should have not done this. It's not right. So therefore it is explained when the buddhi and the bhava, they are married together. No? Taking responsibility without the intellectual reality makes you feel guilty and nishkriya and lack confidence, and you'll be, people will say, I don't know what to do now. So that gives rise to confusion state, hibernation, you know and going towards, with basically, like if you're swimming against the current, and if you stop swimming, then you'll be swept away. So therefore, this concept of, again, God has given us the working senses, the knowledge acquiring senses, and He has given us the mind and chitta also. So only buddhi makes us, like in the modern psychology, what do they make you feel? They say remove your guilt. Guilt is not good. And they give lot of psychological analysis. When you remove the guilt, that makes you shameless. And the traditional people, without having the Vedic understanding, make you feel so guilty that you are papi. You need reformation. You need so many rituals to perform. You don't have a chance to reform. So when there is an extreme degree of guilt, that is dangerous. And if there is an extreme degree of analysis at the cost of becoming shameless, that is not good. Therefore, here the Vedanta, makes us, like after the war was over, Krishna brought Yudhishthira Maharaj to Dhritarashtra. From an intellectual and statistical perspective, Dhritarashtra, there was no need for him to come to Dhritarashtra, so Yudhishthira Maharaj, because he was not faulty in regards to killing Duryodhana and his brothers. But Krishna brought the Pandavas to beg forgiveness, to experience that feeling. At the same time, the feeling was not cancelled. Uh, the feeling did not cancel the Justice Department. Like I gave the example, that a crime has to be seen as a crime by the police, and the crime has to be seen as a disease by a doctor. So the rishis have the great, harmony between seeing it as a mistake and seeing it as a learning lesson of life. No, that is, again, yoga is not one against other. Yoga is harmony between the feeling. It has a contemplation, it has an action, and it has a devotion also. Therefore, Jnana Yoga is all about analysis. Bhakti Yoga is all about feeling low in front of God. And Karma Yoga is all about action, harmonizing between the feeling. And therefore, we don't perform one yoga. It is not that I am Bhakti Yogi. It is not mata centric. Every Bhakti Yogi also has to have some extent of jnana and karma. And every Karma Yogi need to have devotion and knowledge. And every Jnana Yogi also need to have devotion. He can't say, I am a Vedanta follower. They're dry people if they say like that. That means they don't know Vedanta. These three, when they are harmonized, then we are able to deal with our limitations as a guilt or a disease or a lesson of life and move forward.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Can we take one more question, Prabhuji?
I think we have to stop because I have another discussion. Yeah. Thank you.
Prabhuji, quickly, can you tell us the name of the book which has been written by the medical doctor from India?
She is based in America, called as Prime, written by Kulatri Chowdhury.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Thank you very much. We will see you next Saturday to continue our conversation on the laws of living. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.